Thank you and good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are on the record. Today is Monday, October the 3rd, and this is the Tennessee Athletic Commission's meeting for the month of October. We were to start at 2 o'clock. It is 2:30. I'm going to do a quick roll call, and then we will address what we can address so far. Mr. Steve Hanna?
Here.
Mr. William Chad Chilcutt?
Here.
And Mr. Donald Wynn was supposed to call in, so at this point, unfortunately, we don't have a quorum with which the board meeting can actually continue. And so we have done roll. We're going to go ahead and take care of the guests that we have appearing before the board. If for some reason we do get a phone call, we can continue and at that point proceed. And then before we wrap up, we'll have to come to a decision of when we can do a phone call so that there's some board business that we do have to take care of. And we'll do just having all three of you on the phone, probably either at the end of this week or early next week. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to let our guests speak, and we can discuss these matters with them, but we can't take any official action, so we can't approve any rule. Sorry. So as I was saying, we're going to let our guests speak. We can't take any official action on behalf of the commission, though, but we can discuss their concerns with them.
Well, this will get y'all back to Johnson Sandy Suitor. Since you get to go first, right? Oh, you're here. Okay. Gentlemen, glad to have you. You want to just introduce yourself for the, I guess, record?
Yes, and let me point it down. Yeah, and if it does, it speaks, turns to Chris. There you go.
Okay, I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear us today. I'm Tim Loy with Valor Fights. We are a promotion out of East Tennessee, working our way towards Middle Tennessee. We do pro-am shows on average 12 to 14 a year, and the main thing that I wanted to bring to you guys' attention today, I realize we don't have enough people here to make any real moves, but maybe we can just discuss for the future. And the issue would be just having some sort of protocol in place moving forward. If we could figure out a good arrangement for handling breaches of contract from professional fighters. I have had a plethora of issues over the last 3-4 years with fighters breaching contract with no medical proof or anything of the sort. So essentially, I brought in a sample contract that I can leave with you guys to kind of see how we write our contracts out, and I've also gotten statements from 5 different other state athletic commissions: South Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Kentucky, and Virginia, and they kind of lay out how they handle these situations when a pro breaches contract. So as to not leave the promoter on the hook. Essentially, the promoter, we have to have a surety bond. So if we breach contract and don't pay a fighter, they're gonna cash our surety bond and they're gonna get paid. However, we don't really have any sort of recourse on our end to hold the fighter to his end of the deal. We realize that injuries occur and things like that happen, but we've just had so many that they're not hurt or they pull because they don't have their medicals done, what have you. So essentially, we would like to have some sort of protocol in place where we can submit our contracts in advance to the state whenever the fight card is approved and it's on record. If the fighter pulls and doesn't have suitable documentation of medical or bereavement or what have you, then we would like to somehow work it out where the fighter is suspended until we are paid our lost expenses that we've got. Essentially, with the card locking a week before, it makes it difficult if we have a fighter pull on the week of the show. We can't make those changes to replace him, and then you've got your other fighter that has done everything that he's supposed to do, and he's going to expect his show money. So, are we stuck paying that show money for no fight when we can't replace the fight? If that makes sense, it's out of our hands a week out. So that's essentially what we're looking. Loy, L-O-Y. Mm-hmm.
Just curious, what happens on in a situation such as an injury? Is it treated any differently?
Yeah, I mean, if it's an injury and they've got documentation, then that kind of stuff happens in this business, and we're aware of that. So if it's a legit injury and they have a doctor's note, then we would.
That's how you're going to validate it. That's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
One thing that I actually
Will just state your name for the record. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I know who you are, but
no, of course, of course. I'm Casey Oxendine, and I do commentary for Valor Fights and work in a number of promotions that I've done outside of the states. And I actually promoted the first mixed martial arts event in the state of Tennessee as an amateur event back in 2008. And I really, I was really concerned last year when there were some problems, about the commission and the danger of losing mixed martial arts. And so, I just, wanted to, always stay up to speed here. And so I wanted to come out. And one thing that there, and I don't know that this could be possible, but what he was stating as far as for fighters that would pull, I even think that there are times when fighters will pull with an injury and it not be substantial, it not be a legit injury, and that's just part of that's collateral damage, I guess, sometimes. That being said, what would prevent a fighter, and especially the amateurs, what I found that keeps these fighters in line is that they need to fight. They want to continue fighting. What about if a fighter were to be pulled for a medical issue, that there be a short medical suspension and maybe a month long? Because if they're injured, why should they be able to go that very next week without being evaluated? Because what will happen is they'll pull off of one show, they'll get a better offer down the road, and then they'll go down and fight the very next week or that weekend. And so, but if you had if you said, okay, well, we're going to suspend you this amount of time until we revisit and see what the issue is. If you have any actual health problems, we want to make sure that you're healthy enough to continue fighting, because if you do pull, you've obviously got a medical issue. And I thought that might perhaps, instill a little bit of reverence into the fighters to respect the contracts that they sign and so forth.
yeah, appreciate you.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. I think that, obviously if a guy's pulling and he's got a legitimate injury, then he should have a medical suspension until he can show documentation that specific injury has been alleviated. Because otherwise, as the system stands now, he could pull and then he could go to another state in Kentucky and fight the very next week, and there'll be no record of that really to prohibit him from doing that. And I realize that we're not a court of law here, and that seems to be the hesitation essentially, that the commission doesn't want to make judgments essentially or award compensation or what have you. And I don't really expect that. More than anything, I just want the license that that you guys issue the license, and so if the person that has been issued the license is not, is breaching contracts and those type things, suspend the license that was issued.
But congruently, the Mark Laws, I'm medical director for Valor Fights. Congruently, also, if you post-fight or put on medical suspension, that is throughout all states with athletic commissions. So I think it could tie into it like that, as opposed to, having it be a completely separate entity, just kind of wheel it all into one. And those people, if they're put on that medical suspension, just have it as one, just like if post-fight, it just keeps, and that way everybody knows about it, everybody's informed. Every promoter, every athletic commission, everybody knows. So that's something that.
Gentlemen, any other notes or comments on this topic?
Just kind of going over what a few of the other states have, they do. The South Carolina Commission, they will, if a pro contract is breached, the fighter is suspended until payment of loss is paid to the promoter, or the promoter agrees to lift with an agreement. I've seen that happen in Georgia. Actually, 2 days ago, a guy named Ben Brewer was suspended indefinitely for nationwide because he breached his contract, and until he paid back the promoter his loss. He couldn't fight anywhere, and he didn't have the money to pay that back, so he ended up taking a fight with the same promoter Friday, fought for free essentially, and that was good enough to alleviate that with the promoter, and he lived at the suspension. essentially, so the other Arizona says they will uphold a suspension for breach of contract for up to a year max, or until the promoter is compensated fairly for damages, but never longer than a year. Georgia says a fighter who breaks pro contract is viewed on a case-by-case situation. The commission will look into the matter, gather evidence as to why the break occurred, and rule accordingly. Suspension could be 3 or 6 months, or 1 year. The commission can also fine a fighter for lost wages to the promoter. And then finally, Virginia, the promoter has signed contract with the fighter. We will suspend the fighter for unsportsmanlike conduct until the fighter under contract can show justifiable cause why he did not fulfill his contract. And Kentucky says, if in fact there is a contract, we suspend the fighter for 6-month minimum. There is some movement with a new board to hold them liable for the amount of the purse to be paid to the promoter. Not sure how far that will go. So as far as our costs, that we are, when a guy pulls like that, we're out insurance, we're out hotel, we're out hotel for his opponent, we're out his opponent's show money, and all kinds of ticket refunds and things like that. It really is a big, it's thousands of dollars it costs us when these things happen.
These commission, the suspensions are based around the ABC, and so like I guess unified through the ABC. I know that some commissions I don't work with the ABC as closely as others, but South Carolina certainly does.
Yeah, I think pretty much most states that use the mixedmartialarts.com records database it's all tied in through ABC. So those are all just kind of interwoven. If one state issues a suspension, it goes everywhere, And I have one other matter. It doesn't really pertain to that. Should it be separate?
Before you move on, just to give this some context from either three of you gentlemen, if you don't mind, just how long have you been promoting?
4 years.
4?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so you've been doing this for a long time, since 2005 maybe, or how many times has this happened over the course of your experience as a promoter? And
I would say on average we get one a show. Sometimes more, sometimes none, but on average, I'd say one a show.
I thought it's pretty regular, just as a
It's pretty regular.
myself,
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, over the course of the 4 years, I've had 60, 70, 80 of them. I mean, it's a lot of them. It essentially, if we can just set a precedent, where guys realize that there could be some circumstance or some repercussion for doing these things, then I think it'll fall off a lot. Essentially, guys just know that they can do it and get away with it because nothing's ever been done.
I think you mentioned you had another matter.
Yeah, it's kind of not related, but essentially I know that we don't handle the amateurs through the state right now, and we've got our sanctioning bodies, the UMAF and ISKA, whatnot, that do that. The issue that we're having is the results being sent in are. If it's not sent in by the athletic commission, mixedmartialarts.com will not accept it. It can't. The amateur sanctioning bodies can't turn those in and it be listed as a sanctioned fight. So what we've been doing up until now is we've been having the South Carolina Commission actually turn in our amateur results, so they'll show as official. But if there's any way that we can somehow get, whenever we turn in results, if we can just send the amateur results, we can compile them all. It would just be simply forwarding an email. Because what's happening right now, when they're not turned in, if there's a medical suspension, then it's not getting caught. So if a guy gets hurt, he could get knocked out, have a 60-day suspension. But if it's not turned in by the commission, it's not an official fight. So he's not going to get flagged in the database as having a suspension. He could go fight the very next week, be knocked out, have a concussion, whatever, and there'd be nothing to stop that.
I'd say the issue with this is going to be that the commission can't submit results if we don't have somebody there
The reason
watching and recording the results ourselves.
But on the program shows you do.
But I believe we're fine with. I believe Brian said that he's all right with the sanctioning body sending in the results.
I've got my event from Gatlinburg, which is August the 13th, and my amateur results are still not listed. And that was a pro.
reason we have to send them in through Georgia, that's just where our representative from South Carolina from UMAF that's where he is located at. So that's why he sends them in for us.
Yeah, that August 13th event, the pro results have been listed, but the amateur results have not been listed. And so, like I said, for example, we've got a guy that got knocked out on that show. You know, he has a 60-day suspension, but it's not showing. If you wanted to book him on a show, you could. It wouldn't flag at all because the result hasn't been turned in. So.
Hating myself, but do we remember who there was a governing body that we recognized that kind of handled the amateur stuff years ago?
ISKA.
The statutes say we can recognize any amateur sanctioning body we want as long as they, paraphrasing it, they have rules as strict or stricter than our own. So it's kind of up to the commission what sanctioning bodies they want to recognize.
And are they responsive to that?
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing?
The ISKA and UMMAF are the two main sanctioning bodies in
Who's it
Tennessee.
ISKA? Is it
That's
Tony
Anthony
or-
Manis.
Anthony, thank you. I'm drawing a
UMAF
blank. Yeah.
is Justin Brown, and we use UMAF. We used to use ISKA, but now we use UMAF. They're both approved by the state to handle amateur sanctioning. So those guys, they're more than willing to send the result. They're more than happy to do it. It's just that the database people won't accept it from them unless it comes from the state commission.
We can discuss this, I guess, when we have everybody here.
We can discuss it. We just can't take any action on it.
Okay.
I have a question for legal or administration.
So once we define or designate someone such as ISKA or whoever else, then that would enable, for what purposes of what the need is today.
We might be able, I don't know if this would work, but if we were to, I guess at a commission meeting, like officially designate somebody and allow, for example, ISKA to submit results. I believe it sounds like maybe the problem is mixedmartialarts.com doesn't want to accept it from ISKA, but possibly we could like issue some kind of official letter from the commission saying we're fine with ISKA submitting results of their sanctioned bouts in the state of Tennessee. That might be, I don't know if that worked for mixedmartialarts.com or not, but it might be one possible
Vice
Oh,
solution.
versa, even they may have to have it that.
I think you're right. I think what you're saying is actually perfect. If they would accept some sort of official letter from the head of the commission saying we officially hereby grant this amateur sanctioning body to submit results and it be legitimate. Yeah.
Definitely something legal can research for our next meeting.
Would you mind to put that on the
Absolutely.
I've got. Well, I guess I have maybe one question, and it might be something that would be through legal to answer. But in the case that in the instance that we have someone fall out, and it's on the week of the show, so the fight card's been locked, we're not allowed to make any changes. It's the fighter that is without a fight, the guy that went through everything he was supposed to do. Is he entitled to his show money? I guess it's a legal.
It'd depend on the contract. I wouldn't recommend the commission try to get into the business of interpreting these contracts. I think it's probably something that's best left for a court. Just our opinion.
Wouldn't be an issue where our surety bond was cashed without a ruling from a court.
I can't really give you legal advice on that.
But would it be the commission that has to cast a surety bond?
The fighter would have to file against a surety bond, I believe. So if they contacted the commission would, I believe, well, Roxana might know better, but I believe the commission would just provide the fighter with a copy of the surety bond, and the fighter would then contact the surety company, say this is what happened, and then the surety company would make a determination whether or not it was fair to withhold.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming today, and we will. Mr. Reddish is going to research a bit of this, and we'll talk about it during the next meeting.
So much.
Thank you for coming, and I'm sorry we couldn't do the full meeting.
It's
but
okay.
we've got notes on everything, so really appreciate it.
We'll be back down a couple more times.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
promoting the show here on the 5th, so we'll be back and forth.
Sounds good.
Just
Thank
to set up for the next meeting, I wanted to go over a couple of things on the legal report, just so you'll have them in the back of your mind. Again, we can't really vote on anything, but during the APC conference, moving down where it says legal report, legislative updates, during the ABC conference in Las Vegas in August, they approved some new unified rules. I'd pass those around to you guys to look at briefly. Maybe just do some research on that before. If you think they're a good idea, if they're not, I believe only one state voted against adoption of the rules is New Jersey. They had some concerns about possibly these rules leading to additional injuries against fighters. I think there's a lot of information out there if you look into it. We didn't have any official idea of how the commission would lean, so we actually chose to abstain during the vote. So we're kind of free if we want to adopt them, if we don't want to adopt them. What we'll do is basically you'll just have to request it legal, do some rulemaking, prepare amending our current rules, what we consider a foul, and then we just vote to adopt those at the next meeting. But just give it some thought.
Welcome to take home with you the list of dates for 2017, just to put on your calendar, and I think we'll email them. That way we cover everyone, and via email, if those dates can be on your calendar, then we can go ahead and reserve the room so we don't leave that for a last minute. And then if it's okay with the two of you that are present, we will schedule a telephone meeting either maybe next Monday or Friday. Once I get a hold of Mr. Nguyen, I'll know what was going on to make sure that the three can be present, and then we'll do a conference call. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here.
We need to
Anything
adjourn or
else?
anything.
We don't need a motion, but at this point, we will end the meeting at 2:50. Thank you.